So my name is Jessica. I'm from the travel unit. We will go ahead and start with the travel services website. So on this DSS source page, we have the travel services website right here on the left-hand side. And this is where you're going to find a lot of rules, regulations, forms, certain items that might pertain to travel. The first link up here is Concur, and that is to book any reservations for airfare, hotel, rental car, or the train. It is regulated by the state that you book all travel through Concur. If you have, for example, you find a hotel at a certain price that is cheaper through, say, Hotels.com, Expedia, we encourage you to call the Cal Travel Store. Right here is the number, and tell them that you found it for cheaper than the state rate, and they might be able to help you book that travel or that hotel at that rate. So I encourage you to do that. We do not reimburse for third-party lodging. We have done exceptions. However, the people who do get reimbursed for an exception are still not reimbursed for the taxes and fees because it's not an itemized expense and we have to have all expenses itemized. Please just book everything through Concur. It's also for safety reason. If we don't know that you have made a reservation through Concur, then we don't know necessarily where you're staying. And if something happens to you while you're on state business, we need to be able to find that information out. If you go to Concur there, this is how, if you're new to Concur, you can request a CDSS Concur profile, and you'll just go ahead and fill all this information out. You're going to hit submit, and then it's going to go ahead and send an email to the travel unit here at DSS. We will go ahead and approve it, and then you will be able to go onto Concur and fill out your profile, add your approver, and all that information, and then you would be able to book the travel. There are webinars online if you need to know how to use Concur. It is run by DGS. It's not a DSS program. You want to make sure that if you have any questions on that, you can go ahead and watch that webinar. If you are in Sacramento, then you can go ahead and go to the training that's provided by DGS. And these are the dates and times that Department of General Services is offering a training on how to use Concur. The Cal Travel Store is essentially the travel agents for the state. And so if you are trying to book and you have any issues with booking, we encourage you to call the Cal Travel Store. This number here is the one you would want to call versus the travel unit here. That's this number. And we encourage everyone to book with Concur online. We are charged per reservation. We are charged at a lesser rate if it's online versus if you just call in at that number and the travel agent books for you. If you make the reservation online but you have someone assist you, then it's still an online price, and that's why we encourage you to call them and have them help you. But if they're actually making the reservation for you is when it's at the higher price. If for any reason you can't do it online, by all means call and have them do it for you. We just encourage to do it online. The next link here is the CalAiders link. CalAiders is run by a state controller's office. It is not our program. We are just the in-between person. We audit the travel claims, and then the payments come from state controller's office. No payments are issued here. So this is where you will go to access CalAiders. We'll come back to that when I go ahead and show you how to do the expense reimbursement and travel advance. If you have any prior year claims, for example, fiscal year 16-17 are prior year claims that you can do on CalAiders. If it's prior to fiscal year 15, then you'll have to do a paper claim, which is an STD 262A. But if you do a reimbursement for fiscal year 15 or 16, these instructions here will explain how to go ahead and do that expense reimbursement. It's going to need to be charged to a different year, and that's why it's with the specialized account coding. I'm not going to go through that just because for prior year claims, and we will end up running out of time if I go through that. So if you have questions on that, I encourage you to following those instructions, and if you have additional questions, you can give us a call or email us. This next link is the Citibank government card. This is essentially a personal state credit card. So The advantage to the government travel card is a lot of employees like to keep their expenses separate. They don't want to charge their state expenses on their personal credit card. They want to keep, their expenses with the state on one credit card and then their personal on their own card. So this is the policy if you are interested on getting a credit card for the state. So these links here are very helpful links, the travel alert and travel related memos. Anytime we send out a travel alert, you'll get it in your email. And then we go ahead and post them here. So for example, just a couple days ago, a travel alert came out and it was for the lodging rate increases for these bargaining units here. So we finally got this one posted saying that the rates had increased. Here's the previous rates and here's the new rates for these bargaining units. The other bargaining unit, the travel alert came out last year, I believe. So these are just a new one. And then we just released another memo with the mileage rate. So that will end up getting posted on this website as well. It just hasn't been done yet. Prior year, it's going to have 2017, 16, and it goes all the way to 2012. So as long as it is relevant, it's going to be posted. If anything supersedes it, then we're going to delete the prior one and put the new one on. So this just is requirements for receipts, and even though it was back in 2012, it still is relevant, so we still have it on there. So I would really encourage everyone to go ahead and read through this. There's the rental car extension, and it explains here the daily rates and the weekly rates for the rental car, and it also will say some helpful hints. So you need to return your car with a full tank or as much fuel as when you picked it up. We need original receipts showing date, time, pump number, gallons purchased, and price per gallon. If it does not show that information, you're not going to get reimbursed for your gas. So you don't want it to say prepaid $20 and that's all the information, because you're going to get that $20 cut from your claim. So make sure that you go ahead and read through these. Debit fees cannot be reimbursed. So if you go to ARCO, you're not going to get your 35 cents reimbursed. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to read through these travel alerts. A lot of them have information that could be answered. That's a very helpful link on the Travel Services webpage. These related travel reference links are where we as auditors get our information to audit claims. There's the travel section that's going to have a lot of information as far as the rules that apply to being reimbursed. It just has a lot of rules and regulations that are compiled all in one document. The bargaining unit contracts trump every other rule and regulation out there if it doesn't coincide together. So, for example, your bargaining unit contract says that for mileage, for example, if you leave from home, you can only be reimbursed in excess of your normal commute. We use that rule and we use that to audit mileage claims for employees. I encourage you to read through the travel section of your bargaining unit contract so you're not surprised if anything gets cut from your claim. And the state administrative manual is also another tool that we use. Again, if this does not coincide with your bargaining unit contract, your bargaining unit contract is what you want to go by. Most of the time they are one and the same. We also use this, for example, gives information for parking, and then it also says employees parking at airports must use the less expensive purple parking. When you go to Sacramento Airport to fly out, you have to park in the economy lot for $10 a day. If you choose the $12 a day lot, that's fine, but you're only going to get reimbursed the $10. If you have a justification for using a higher price lot, then as long as that justification is valid, we can go ahead and reimburse you. But this is where we get our information for someone who says, well, I wanted to park in the $17 lot because it's covered parking, and that's great, but you'll just get reimbursed the $10. And then we can go ahead and relay this information to them if they want to see where it's written. That's the state administrative manual. And then there is the CalHR rules that we have here. These rules are also pulled from your bargaining unit contract. So we go ahead and we'll use those CalHR rules to audit claims, and we'll provide you the link to where we're getting the information from if we have a reason to show you that. These are our CDSS Travel Pocket Guide. These are for long-term assignment. And then this is for non-state employees. So if you have any consultants or anything traveling on behalf of the department. And then this one here is for state employee travel. The people here will have this pocket guide, and it's just the same one that's online here. Essentially, this is a informational pack. So if you look in it, it's going to show you the lodging reimbursement rates. It's going to show you what you need to do for higher lodging, which I'll touch on in just a minute. Third-party lodging, it says that it's not reimbursable. Meals and incidentals, when you can claim those. Out-of-state travel, it must be approved by the governor's office. Out-of-country travel, mileage reimbursement rates, those are the current rates as prior to January 1st. This information regarding mileage when trips begin at home. Transportation, rental vehicles, stating that it's $33 a day, and what to do if you exceed the state rate. State vehicles, airline, and it just says to keep all original receipts. Original receipts are required for reimbursement. And then on the back of it has all of the contact information. And our information is the travel help desk, and then our mailing address is up in it at the very bottom. So this is really good. I would keep this with you. If you have any questions, you can refer back to this. So, and then down here are forms that we frequently use in travel. So here's the excess lodging rate request, the STD 255C. This is frequently used if there's a rate that's exceeding the state rate. This here is a form that will need to be filled out prior to your trip. We do not approve any after the fact. So if you get there and the hotel has changed the price on you for some reason, then that's something you have to take up with the hotel. You usually shouldn't change the price. Or if it's a last minute trip, you need to submit this as soon as you know that you're going on a trip. No after the facts are approved on this form. We have delegated authority by CalHR to approve these forms, and if we abuse that, then we are going to go ahead and lose that delegated authority. You're going to want to fill this out. You're going to have to provide the justification. You need your signature, and then you need your supervisor's signatures. And here are the instructions on how to fill out the form. It needs to be submitted at least 10 days prior to traveling. Again, if it's last minute travel, then just as soon as you know that you have to go on travel, go ahead and submit this. But if you know in the future you're going to have to travel, please submit it at least 10 days prior. After the fact, request will not be approved. If there are multiple employees going on the same trip, you can just put their names on the one STD 255C, and they're staying at the same hotel. You don't need to submit 10 different STD 255Cs. So it's the employee's responsibility to demonstrate good faith. You have to submit a printout from Concur showing that you tried to book within the state rate and there was nothing available. Destination, you'll provide the exact address. Please provide a reason for the higher lodging, and it's going to be approved or denied on a case-by-case basis. And it says here, please note that safety is not considered a valid justification. So you can't say that you didn't feel safe. It's subject to the traveler. So one traveler might say that they feel safe there and the other one might not. And so we can't say that safety is a valid justification. Again, we are given the delegated authority by CalHR, and if we violate that, then they're going to take it away, and every excess lodging form will have to go to CalHR, not just the ones over 150. If there's lodging less than 50 miles from home or headquarters, a separate 50-mile limit exception request must be provided. So it needs to have your original signature. Department needs 2 lines. The first line is going to be the manager who can sign for this form, and then the second line is going to be our supervisor or delegated a signature authority within the travel unit, the Accounting Disbursements Bureau. If it is over 150, then it's going to have to get put out to CalHR, and then they will have to go ahead and process that. It does take longer. It's a pretty quick turnaround time usually, but it does take longer if it has to go out to CalHR. And then once it's approved, you're going to get an email back saying that it was approved. We recommend waiting to book the hotel until this is authorized and approved, because you would be responsible for any cancellation fees that might be incurred if this was denied and you had to cancel the hotel. I know a lot of people book their hotel before they even get this approved. That's up to you, but we recommend waiting just in case there is a denied request. And for any information, you can go ahead and call the travel unit on that. So any questions on that? That one's super important because we want to make sure everyone gets reimbursed. Asking if there's a different maximum rate for managers, the answer is no. So the managers are exempt, so you're going to go ahead and look at this one that are excluded employees. This is going to show you what they're entitled to. So it's the exact same rate as everyone else. The lodging rates are going to be here for the managers. Everyone has the same lodging rate. If someone wants to stay in a higher priced lodging establishment and only be reimbursed the state allowed rate, that's fine. So normally what they'll do is if it exceeds the state rate and they don't care, then they will just say it's for LA and it was $135. They'll just put $120 on their claim, and we know as auditors. And then you can get reimbursed the full amount of taxes. So you don't have to prorate the taxes or anything. So if it's $135 and it says $45 in taxes, then you can get reimbursed the $45 in taxes. So that's the excess lodging form. This is instructions on completing a 50-mile limit exception request. So per the state, you cannot have lodging or per diem if the travel is less than 50 miles. Say you go from Sacramento to Stockton and it's 48 miles. You're not entitled to lodging or per diem because it is under the 50 miles. So if you feel like, okay, 48 miles is close enough to 50, I actually live an additional 20 miles from Sacramento, so it's 68 miles from my home, then you can go ahead and use these instructions on how to fill out a 50-mile limit request. It must be in memo form. Here's what's needed on that memo. And then you can go ahead and submit it to us at least 10 days prior to your trip. Again, no after the facts are going to be approved. So submit it prior to your trip, and if it seems valid and reasonable, then and it gets approved, then you can go ahead and book your lodging and do that. The approval will need to be submitted with the claim. And also the STD 255C a copy of the approved one needs to be submitted with the claim as well. The instructions there on completing that. This here is the auto rental justification, and this is if you exceed the state rate. This can be submitted after the fact, but it needs to be submitted with your claim. If you exceed the $33 a day, you can go ahead and submit this to your supervisor. If your supervisor approves it, go ahead and give it to the travel unit with your claim, and then we can go ahead and process that. This link is to get your rental car receipt if you didn't obtain one. This here is a signature authorization form. So if a bureau chief or above wants to delegate authority to someone who's less than a bureau chief, you can go ahead and get this form signed and submitted. This is a form it's a tax waiver exemption form, so you can take this form to hotels and sometimes they'll waive the tax for you. It saves the state money, so we encourage employees to go ahead and take that form in. Here's the out-of-state approval request. Authorization to use your privately owned state vehicle. If you're using your vehicle for state business, this needs to be on file with your supervisor. And then these two are if you were in an accident while on state business. And then this is our contact information. So we have the travel help desk email, and then our phone number, the times we answer the phone, and then our mailing address. So this is the travel services website. Again, super helpful information. We encourage you to just play around on it and get familiar with it.